Energy plays a vital role in the economic growth, development and security of any nation. Renewable energy has considerable potential here in Nigeria. These energy experts say could bridge the energy gaps, especially in off-grid areas, as the nation is blessed with abundant renewable energy resources from solar, wind, biomass and hydropower potential. Energy is also at the heart of climate challenge, and in the nation's bid to reduce emissions by 2030 and reach net zero by 2050, there must be concerted efforts towards ending over-reliance on fossil fuels and invest in alternative sources of energy that are clean, accessible, affordable, sustainable and reliable. Energy experts are of the opinion that renewable energy can help Nigeria not only meet its energy needs, but also power sustainable economic growth and create jobs, which is key to achieving adequate, stable power supply. However, as efforts have been made to diversify energy sources to improve the nation's energy infrastructure and address challenges, what are the alternative energy sources that states are adopting towards investing in renewable energy and ensuring energy-efficient sources? How are they leveraging on natural resources to reduce dependence on fossil fuels to mitigate climate change? Tonight, on Weekend File, we'll put our spotlight on alternative energy development in states. And our guest is Mr. Idris Muhammad. He is the former MD, Kaduna Electricity Distribution Company. We'll bring you situation reports across states. Thank you for joining us. You know, this is Weekend File. I'm Ruth Aguele. First, let's bring you the news. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will depart Abuja on Sunday for Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, to attend the Joint Arab Islamic Summit, which will focus on the current situation in the Middle East. The summit, which is expected to commence Monday, November 11, 2024, is at the instance of King Salman and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and follows last year's summit. A statement by Special Advisor to the President, Media and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, says President Tinubu will utilize the summit to speak on immediate ceasefire and peaceful resolution of the Israel-Palestinian conflict, advocating a two-state solution for lasting peace in the region. The president will be accompanied by key officials of the federal government. The practice of seeking out renewed hope initiative for collaboration to deliver good governance is fast gaining ground among government agencies and key organizations. The Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, has joined the train with the formal launch of a partnership with Renewed Hope Initiative. State House correspondent Adeni Taiwo reports that the ceremony also witnessed the flag off of the NDDC RHI U-Lesson educational tablets by Nigeria's First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu.
Generations yet unborn. Thank you.
With the new partnership, the Niger Delta Development Commission hopes to leverage RHI platform to promote the distribution and adoption of its U-Lesson educational tablets, with Nigeria's First Lady, Oluremi Tinubu, leading the advocacy. Her mandate is clear, and tapping into her deep insight as an educationist, the First Lady went straight to work, highlighting the numerous advantages of the digital device.
I was informed that the U-Lesson education software is meticulously tailored to align with the Nigerian educational system, ensuring relevance and effectiveness in our local content. One of the prominent features of this software is its offline video library, which allows learners to play, pause, and rewind educational content without the need of an internet connection. As we distribute this education software, services, and tablets, we are taking a significant step towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goal 4, which seeks to ensure inclusive and equitable qualitative education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. In addition to the distribution of these tablets, the NDDC has always employed the services of a consultant to train teachers in use of U-lesson tablets for effectiveness across the 9 mandate states and Nigeria in general.
Equipped with the approved educational curriculum, each tablet offers students interactive classes, video tutorials, and tests that will deepen their understanding and enhance their learning journey.
So for those who do not have money to pay lesson teachers, these tabs are the lesson teachers that will teach those children. But they are highly regulated so that the children cannot also go outside its use to abuse it.
We need to be able to monitor and evaluate the outcomes in terms of cognitive and learning abilities of the children.
Already, NDDC has acquired 45,000 units of the U-lesson educational tablets, preloaded with content for onward distribution to students in primary, junior and secondary schools across Niger Delta states. From the conference center of the Presidential Villa, Adeni Itaiwo, NTA News.
In other news, the First Lady of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, says there is no truth in an information making the rounds that she is organizing a national prayer for the country. In a statement by her SSA media, Busola Kukuyi, the First Lady notes that prayer is an act that must be done willingly and correctly, and the responsibility of every citizen. She advised members of the public to verify the authenticity of any news or event involving her office through official channels. Minister of State Works Bello Muhammad has expressed satisfaction with the level of progress so far made on the multi-million naira Ilela-Badagry superhighway conceived to connect northern and southwestern parts of the country and neighboring Niger Republic. This is during an on-the-spot assessment of Ilela Amarawa, the originating point of the legacy project. Bashir Ibrahim Nababa reports.
Contract for the construction of the 3-lane carriageway was awarded on the 14th August 2024 by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu-led administration, create jobs, connect communities, and fast-track economic development of the country, in line with this renewed hope agenda on road infrastructure. Work on the Phase 1-1A, covering 120-kilometer distance that stretches 4 local government areas of Sokoto State, commenced on the 4th November 2024 as directed by the Minister of Works, David Omahi. This on-the-spot assessment by the Minister of State Works, Bello Muhammad Goronyo, is to ensure total compliance by the contractor handling the project.
This is one project that Mr. President is very passionate about, and that is why we are not taking it lightly, we are not taking it easy. So we have to come here and assess the progress of work.
The minister sheds more light on the recent revocation of the Abuja-Kaduna-Kano Road project by the federal government.
We will look at a suitable contractor and award that project. We are not abandoning the project.
The African Women's Conference is seeking to continuously engage African leaders to be deliberate in mainstreaming gender issues, especially women empowerment and ensuring digital inclusivity. On the resolutions, I'm talking about the 2024 African Women Conference holding in Lusaka, Zambia, Nigeria's Minister of Women Affairs, Iman Suleiman Ibrahim, in a message also reaffirms the country's commitment to global and continental steps on gender equality. Olusheye Adiagbo reports.
The African Women Conference, AWC, annual meeting of experts, institutions and individuals, promotes growth, stability and development of African women, and its latest edition convenes over 200 participants from countries across the continent. After a 3-day engagement dwelling on digital advancement, harnessing its potential for the African woman, conversations identified infrastructure limitations as major constraints for women entrepreneurs to drive inter- and intra-African trade, as well as economic empowerment using technology.
Too often, tech spaces remain male-dominated, stifling diverse voices and ideas. By consciously promoting women leaders in technology sector, we create role models for the next generation.
We use our natural capabilities as African women and leverage the power of technology.
Nigeria's Minister of Women Affairs represented head African Union ECOSOC and key players want implementation of set targets.
And this resonates so well with the vision of the African Union of an integrated and peaceful Africa that is driven by its citizens.
And so going forward is going to be one of the areas of focus, how we can make life easy for women, connect them to the inter-African spaces where they can also trade.
Not only gaps and needs, but also the solutions.
Delegates believe this conference in Lusaka has again fulfilled AWC mission of building networks that seeks Africa's solution to Africa's challenges. From Lusaka in Zambia, Olusheye Adiagbo, NTA News.
And turning our attention back home, tributes have continued to pour in over the demise of the late Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja, who passed on earlier this week. The most recent to visit are the alumni of the National Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies. Olajide Bello gives us a compilation of personalities who have so far visited the Army headquarters on condolences visit.
Of the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja, overwhelming tributes have continued to pour in, owing to his dedication to the profession. Among the latest sympathizers to have visited the Army headquarters on condolence visit are the alumni members of Course 44 from the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies.
It's quite very painful to us. Army has always supported the Army because of the supreme sacrifices they have been paying to enhance the security of this very country. So we are here as a body to convey our condolences.
Also at the Armed Forces Complex are members of House Committee on Army led by its chairman, Aminu Babali. The House Committee extolled the exemplary leadership of late Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja. The committee called on the Army to preserve the legacy of General Lagbaja by ensuring that insecurity becomes a thing of the past in Nigeria, a cause which he lived for.
Lieutenant General Lagbaja gave everything to Nigeria. My team and I, having been part of General Lagbaja's structure, will do everything best possible to continue within the sphere of his legacy.
Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State was also at the residence of the late Army Chief and the Armed Forces Headquarters.
Very intellectual soldier, a pan-Nigerian, a nationalist, a committed soldier, and who believed in democratic principles. And under him, you could see that the Nigerian Army, both in terms of dignity, integrity, and respect, made a huge success.
While funeral arrangements are yet to be announced, flags are flown at half-mast in all military, paramilitary, and police formations. Olajide Bello, NTA.
All right, how is Nigeria pushing for alternative energy development, especially at the subnationals? That's our focus after the break. Stay tuned. Thank you for being there. Before we begin the conversation, let's check out how states are coping or adopting these alternative power development sources. Difficult situation, they say, requires desperate and proactive approach to achieve sustainable result. This is the situation of Nigeria's power sector. And the conversation is for states to develop alternative energy that will complement supply of electricity from the national grid. Joshua Ojito has more for us.
From ECN to NEPA, PHCN to the unbundled and privatized power sector, Nigeria rely on a single grid for the supply of electricity. With increase in population, aged and obsolete power infrastructure, vandalism among other challenges, the national grid is characterized with instability that result in frequent system failure, disrupting supply nationwide. As demand for electricity to power the country's economy continue to rise, there are calls for subnationals to look inward and develop alternative energy sources independent of the national grid, leveraging the new Electricity Act.
Today's Nigeria, any energy generating company has to now generate and supply it to a central energy systems in Okshawo, where from there you start distributing. Some of us scientists, we wonder why do we do that in a big country like Nigeria? Why not you decentralize the transmission system into zones, and then any other zone that have surplus is the surplus you can then send to the central system for warehousing, which after, if there is a deficiency in one zone, they can tap from the central system. By the time you do that, each zone has its energy master plan. And then the supply system, the generation, supply, transmission, and distribution within that zone can take care of the energy need of that zone.
We have about 2 companies now that are ready to install 3 gigawatts, that's 3,000 megawatts of solar power source in Nigeria. And this is an opportunity for the states to also invest in this. We have over 70 dams spread across the length and breadth of Nigeria. We have developed about 27 of these dams. And 20 of these dams, we are going to concession them to interested investors in small hydropower from 500 kilowatts, you understand, to 1 megawatt, to 5 megawatts, up to 15 megawatts of power. This is also useful in our distributed power strategy across the length and breadth of Nigeria.
It is expected that if each state of the Federation can harness its energy sources to power its communities, it will reduce pressure and complement the national grid, thereby ensuring available electricity supply nationwide. Joshua Ojito, NTA News.
And from Kano, we hear that the state is exploring ways of additional alternative sources of energy as a strategy to address the crisis in the energy sector. Well, apart from the adoption of solar power, the state has established a hydropower generating plant to boost energy generation. Yahanasu Hassan Barau reports that institutions have also keyed into alternative sources of energy.
Kano, like many developing states, grapples with the deepening energy crisis affecting its economy and industrial progress. In response, both state and federal governments have launched initiatives to reignite Kano's industrial sector. The AKK project, among others, aims to expand energy infrastructure, while a recent high-power delegation assessed how best to restore industrial production.
We are running 31 megawatts of electricity through clean energy.
Solar power fills some gaps in institutions and individuals embracing it. Bayero University, Kano, for instance, has built a 7.1 megawatt solar plant under the rural electrification, a testament to the state's shift toward renewable energy. At the same time, the state has developed a hydropower plant at the Tiga and Chala Gorge dams, producing 16 megawatts. Plans are also on the way to convert waste into energy, a sustainable approach to broaden electricity access for homes and even neighboring states.
The initial concept of the project is to give supply to water board and street light. But with the advent of the solar and street light system powered by solar, we decided with the approval of His Excellency to convert, to change the concept of the project.
Waste can be turned to energy, and it can be turned to wealth as well. So we are promoting the use of biodigesters that will enable conversion of waste to energy.
In Kano, Yahanasu Hassan Barau, NTA News.
Well, let's bring in our guests. We have in the studio Mr. Idris Muhammad, the former Managing Director, Kaduna Electricity Distribution Company. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Muhammad.
Thank you for having me, Ruth.
Glad to have you. If you look at the situation across states, we've seen from this kind of report and the background report we saw earlier, there are diverse means of this energy, alternative energy sources. Would you say, from your perspective now, that states are exploring or harnessing this vast potential the nation is blessed with?
Thank you, Ruth. I would like to start the discussion by thanking our President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for being in charge of the crisis that we have in Nigeria's power sector. The frequency of the system collapse in the country made the president to develop personal interest in ensuring that anything to do to avoid system collapse is achieved. And therefore, when a part of Nigeria, the entire northern Nigeria, 17 states, were in darkness due to system collapse, it took the personal intervention of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu through the Honorable Minister of Power to ensure that reliable power supply is restored to northern Nigeria. And that was a disaster waiting to happen. The option is obvious. If the other source of generating power, which is gas majorly and hydro, is having issues, the other option that is available is renewable energy. By renewable energy, we refer to solar, wind, waste to power, and then hydro and biofuel. But let me say that the experiment to actually make a major breakthrough in this regard is already in the Ministry of Power. There is a pilot scheme at the moment that was started many years ago in Katsina. That's Nigeria's biggest one-point renewable energy project at Lambarimi. That project is currently ongoing, and the Minister of Power is dedicated to ensure the completion of that project. And in order to make that project in Lambarimi to become a model renewable energy project, they introduced a hybrid. A hybrid means a combination of two sources. That is the solar and the wind. The solar will complement the wind, and then the wind will complement the solar in order to bring about the efficiency of that project. Now, if, like the Honorable Minister of Power is desirous of ensuring that that project is completed on time, that will be a major breakthrough for renewable energy projects in Nigeria. In one point, you have 10 megawatts of solar, and the other one, you have 10 megawatts of wind. If that 20 megawatts is achieved from one point, and then it is replicated in the same area, for instance, Katsina State, I am aware, is making serious effort to complement the federal government's effort.
It's good, Mr. Muhammad, you just mentioned Katsina State, because I'd like you to weigh in on the capacity of states to explore. We're seeing the mini-grids and off-grids alternative technologies, but is that enough, really, when you look at the capacities of the states?
By and large, it all depends on the interests of the state government. For instance, a state government has the capacity to generate a minimum of 100 megawatts of power from solar, from wind, at the same time. But right now that it is obvious, because of the grid instability and no explanation whatsoever, I hope that the lessons would be taken seriously by state government. Also, the devolution of the regulatory issues that relate to constructing solar power plants, wind power plants, hydropower plants has been devolved to states. It's a great opportunity for state governments to actually develop interest in order to make sure that darkness is removed entirely from the Nigerian environment.
Which will require a lot of investment, Mr. Muhammad, you agree with me. Isn't it the best time, especially with this recent national grid collapse, is it not the best time to look at, or rather exploring investment opportunities in these areas?
Yes, incidentally, the investment has a support of the energy transition agenda of the global community. The energy transition program comes with it funding support, funding opportunities for renewable energy. It's for state governments to take advantage of this gigantic program that the global community is actually interested in, is promoting, and then the cost of renewable energy projects is more or less dropping to the barest minimum. Therefore, I agree to a large extent that it is very, very necessary for states to take advantage of this current situation to make sure that they support the effort of the federal government. To support the effort of the federal government, like what you have read or what you have broadcasted that is currently taking place in Kano, should also be the same for all the states in Nigeria, especially in the coastal regions also. The coastal regions can also develop interest and undertake projects in a combination of the wind and then the solar. And they can generate quite a huge amount of power from that region. By the coastal region, I mean Lagos, Port Harcourt, Calabar, and Warri. All those are areas that can take advantage of this new innovation, this new hybrid technology to generate power. And then within a very shortest time, you are good to go. So I advise that state governments all over Nigeria, if one state government decides to generate 100 megawatts of power, we have 36 states in Nigeria with federal capital. It means that states alone can generate 3,700 megawatts of power within 12 months.
We have the resources, Mr. Muhammad, but we'll pick up with this conversation. Let's take a break. Glad to know you're there. Just before Mr. Muhammad picks up with the conversation, let's find out what is the situation in Enugu, especially as we look at how the state is leveraging its natural resources to reduce dependence on fossil fuels and mitigate climate change.
Enugu State, with its vast coal reserves, has historically been a major contributor to Nigeria's energy mix. However, the state recognizes the need to transition to cleaner, more sustainable energy sources. It is against this backdrop that the state has embarked on several alternative energy projects. These include solar power projects, hydroelectric power generation, and wind farms energy, promoting biogas production and implementation of energy-efficient lighting projects.
We are doing is diversification to a more sustainable energy source, which is the solar PV, for us to really make sure that the grassroots, the rural areas, benefit.
Solar power system can power a whole lot. The major cost of running these things is usually the battery, the storage system. So if you can get the energy straight from the sun and use it right away without going to store it somewhere, it will help you.
Despite progress made, developing transmission infrastructure, securing funding, as well as strengthening policies to support alternative energy development remain impediments.
The federal government of Nigeria
needs to increase the budget of the universities so that they can do more researches.
With continued government support, private sector investment, and community engagement are factors driving alternative energy development in the state. In Enugu, Chiegono Aro, NTA News.
All right, Mr. Idris Muhammad, you just saw Enugu's report, and one key thing I'll pick out from there is the issue of funding. Earlier, you talked about the cost of renewable energy. Now, how can private sector come in, in the aspect of investment, especially if they want to explore the benefits from the aspect of job creation, reliability, and of course, stability?
Private sector would normally come in once the project, renewable energy projects, either solar, wind, biomass, waste. Once the project is bankable, the private investor would normally participate in carrying out those kind of projects. And in most of the projects that you have seen, in all those states where this activity is taking place, a lot of it is coming and is being funded through private sector initiatives.
Okay.
Therefore, it's just for the state government to create that, interest and commitment to support the federal government's effort in ensuring that they develop their own independent sources of power. Because they don't have any reason whatsoever to lack funds, because for sure, private investors are knocking on the doors of state governments for looking for bankable projects. And a lot of these renewable energy projects are really hot and desirous, and then funding is available. As you can see, in some of the states that you have visited, you can see that work is going on. Then what is happening in those other states? Those other states also need to brace up and then also develop interest in developing the economy. Power is the backbone of the economy. And then the business of power is a very, very lucrative business. In anywhere in the world where you have the business of power, that is the backbone of the economy, is certainly a very, very profitable enterprise. So state governments should wake up and then participate fully in renewable energy projects. And that will be the game changer for the Nigeria's power sector. We don't have any other option than to know that once there is electricity, the economy would be performing. Employment will be at its peak. Youth's restiveness would also be checked. Therefore, the state governments should really play a major role. And once they are up to it, a lot will happen. In 1 year, renewable projects generally, they don't last more than 1 year. So if each state government, like I was saying before, will generate 1,000 megawatt, it means that for the 36 and 1 federal capital, which means that states have the capacity to generate 3,700 megawatts from 1 point. And then look at the capacity of the Mambila hydroelectric power project. Mambila hydroelectric power project has the capacity to generate a minimum of 3,050 megawatts of power. It has the capacity to generate much more than that. Yeah. Why can't that project be realized? Northern state governments should come up, team up, and then make sure that Mambila hydropower project is realized. The federal government has tried to develop that project, but little has been achieved. Now that a whole region, the whole northern Nigeria will be in darkness for days, and then it will take the intervention of Mr. President to restore power supply, it means that the government in that region must really think twice, and they have no option than to embrace and complete Mambila hydropower project, and then also try to develop the solar for to develop 100 megawatts of solar for each state. That would be like 1,700. And to have over 4,000 megawatts coming out from northern Nigeria, it means The boom is yet to come.
Mr. Muhammad, just very briefly now, of course, these alternative energy source is looking promising, but affordability and accessibility could be a challenge.
At the moment, if you look at the tariff structure is such that it is customer sensitive. And because it is customer sensitive, and then the government is actually very interested in ensuring that the customer is protected, I think that that will be an issue that will not in any way stop or jeopardize the business of power. Renewable energy is the way to go. There's no two way about it. It's a game changer. And now that it's obvious that the grid is having challenges, we cannot continue to remain in darkness, but rather to embrace the renewable energy option. Wind, solar, waste, hydro, and a lot of other. Coal. Nigeria's coal is one of the best coal in the world. It's clean. It's called coking coal. The coking coal is found in Nigeria, and it's only in Nigeria that you have that coking coal. Therefore, the fact that it is the cleanest quality of coal, it means that you can generate power from coal. And
well, is that being explored?
Yeah, some of the companies like Dangote, like those cement manufacturing plants, a lot of them are on coal. And then it's just that the information is not quite available or is not being marketed for obvious reasons. But the coal to power business is a boom, and it's taking place right now. That's why those cement companies are not complaining, and they are not investing in biofuel.
All right. Of course, we'll continue to raise the ante on awareness for alternative energy sources. Thank you so much, Mr. Idris. Muhammad is the former Managing Director, Kaduna Electricity Distribution Company. Thank you very much for your time on Weekend File.
Thank you, Ruth.
It's a pleasure. All right, let's take a break. We'll be back. Stay tuned. Thank you for staying with us. On the global scene, we hear as nomination for a new Director General for the World Trade Organization and incumbent Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala has been confirmed as the sole candidate by the National Council. On other news, World Health Organization says cyber attacks on health systems has become life-threatening. Kolo Mohammed has details for us.
Ambassador Peter Alberg of Norway, chair of the General Council, informed World Trade Organization members on 9 November that no further nominations for the position of Director General had been received by a deadline of 8 November, and that the incumbent Director General, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, is therefore the only candidate for the role. Director General Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala confirmed her willingness to serve a second four-year term in the role in a letter to the chair on 16 September. World Trade Organization DG Okonjo-Iweala's current term comes to an end on 31st August 2025. In another report, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Arabchi on Saturday warned that the wars in Gaza and Lebanon, where Israel is battling Tehran-backed groups, could spill over beyond the Middle East. Speaking on state TV, Arabchi said the world should know that in case of expansion of war, its harmful effects will not be limited only to the West Asia region. Insecurity and instability can spread to other regions, even far away. In other news, in an address to the United Nations Security Council, World Health Organization Director General highlighted the escalation threat of ransomware attacks on healthcare facilities, warning that these cyber attacks go beyond financial disruption. There can be issues of life and death. He cautions, calling for decisive international action to bolster cybersecurity protections and safeguard patients' lives and trust in health systems. Cyber attacks have rendered several life and living components dangerous and also disrupt coordination for credible and safe service delivery in critical sectors. Before now, financial and more recently health service delivery are having direct effects on life and the health status of the global community. Kolo Muhammad, NTA News.
And now let's talk sports. Francisca will be our guide.
Thank you, Ruth. Welcome to Sports Update. Nigeria's representative Edo Queens will begin their quest to win the CAF Women's Champions League on Sunday when they take on Commercial Bank of Ethiopia in the first match. The game will be played in Casablanca is billed for 4 p.m. Nigerian time. Nyeta Perpetua Hembafan of Edo Queens is also set to make history as youngest player in the CAF Women's Champions League.
And it's something to cherish, that I will cherish till the rest of my life, playing at the biggest stage in African football. And it's a stepping stone for me to explore the other shores of the world. And it's also, I'm so glad that my coach also had this trust in me to pick me at this early age to play in the biggest stage.
Kano Pillars moved to 4th position in the Nigeria Premier Football League after a 1-0 away victory over Bendel Insurance. Kano Pillars have now won twice on the road in the current campaign. At the Lafia City Stadium, Daniel Amokachi's Lobby Stars rallied from a goal down to beat Abia Warriors 3-1. On Sunday, Katsina United in Lagos play Ikorodu City FC. Rivers United and Bayelsa United are involved in a South-South derby, while Lekon Salami Sports Complex is the venue for the match between 3SC of Ibadan and El Kanemi Warriors of Maiduguri. Pep Guardiola fell to a 4th successive defeat for the first time in his managerial career as Brighton came from behind to beat his Manchester side 2-1. It is the first time since 2006 that City have lost 4 in the row. Earlier in the day, Wolves beat Southampton 2-0 at the Molyneux Brentford, outlast Bournemouth 3-2, and Fulham beat Crystal Palace at the Selhurst Park. Later on Sunday, Manchester United take on Leicester City at Old Trafford, and there are expected fireworks. At Stamford Bridge when Chelsea entertain Arsenal. To tennis, Coco Gauff showed supreme determination to come from behind against Zheng Qwen to win the season-ending WTA Finals in an entry-lead encounter that lasted just over 3 hours. The American beat the Olympian champion 3-6, 6-4, 7-6 in Saudi Arabia. At 20 years old, she is the youngest player to win the tournament since Maria Sharapova exactly 2 decades ago, and the youngest American since Serena Williams in 2001. Well, that's it on Sports Update. It's back to Ruth.
Thank you very much, Francisco, for all the details there. And it's time to call it a night. Thank you for being part of Weekend File. Do have a good night rest. I'm Ruth Aguilera.